All right, everybody, we're back, and my streak of great guests continues. And it's really weird because I'm having friends on the show, and I have to ask them questions that I know the damn answers to. It's, but this is John's first time on the show, so I'm gonna have to, so basically I'm gonna ask him questions. I know you're gonna be thinking, yeah, you've known him like 30 something years, jackass. Why are you asking him these questions? Well, you don't know the answers to these questions, which is why I'm going to ask certain questions. So don't think that I turned into an idiot all of a sudden. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Kensil.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on S. Anthony Thomas Super Podcast.
This is just a weird thing because of the pandemic. A lot of these conversations that I'm having with comics are people that I worked with. People that I've known, but we weren't in the same place at the same time for a while, because under normal circumstances, I was going to start performing again right around the time the pandemic started. So under normal circumstances, we'd be at a diner right now, having the same damn conversation we're having. And by the way, if you're wondering what that sound was, I started recording and forgot to turn the fan off. So there was some buzzing going on back there, but that's because it's hot in this damn office. So now the fan is off. So I apologize to the audience, to you, John, for the fan being on. So my friend, listen, how's it been going? How's it been going, my brother? How's it been going?
Actually, how can I say? It has been opening up, but no comedy clubs for comedy, but people are dying to get out, and they're doing like outdoor shows or under pavilions at wineries or breweries or like outdoor social clubs. Not like in a major comedy club, but outdoor events with under a tent. And I've been, and it's funny. This is going to sound. All right, here's a little secret for comedians out there. I get a lot of work. For the main reason is I have 2 sound systems, and the other one is I'm a comedian. But it's any way you can get stage time and you make some money, you got to do it. It's the sound systems. But I've been I do a lot of benefits too. When you know how you do it long enough, you're what do you call it, a reliable act.
Mm-hmm.
Just get it done and don't cause any trouble and get paid.
Yeah, that's the part that always cracked me up, is because, and obviously we, for those of you that don't know, John and I, like I said, we've known each other since 1902. And, and we're both originally from Philadelphia. But the thing is, we both, after a certain amount of years, you learn how to work different regions of the country. You learn how to work fire halls. You learn how to work benefits. And people are going, people are people. No, they're not.
No.
You put people in different venues and the whole different personality pops out.
That's so true. When growing up, you watch your favorite comics on TV and they're like stars in a theater. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be a working comic, you got to, like you said, beef and beers and fire halls. That's the way real comedy is, like in those things. I'm not saying it's better, but man, you gotta you gotta learn. Sometimes you can't go on stage at a fire hall and do your like New York or LA material. And people might say, "What's that about?" I go, "Well, there's some things you can talk about, like on your TV spots, like your HBO special. Mm-hmm. You can grow and tell an interesting story. But sometimes, when you go to a beef and beer or a fire hall, they want to hear about sex and just a more working class crowd."
That would always crack me up, because I figured out really quickly how to adapt to the beef, and I still have some of my best tapes ever. Tapes that I got work off for years were at beef and beer places and fire halls. And you have to work those, because I still remember guys that would come on, and I would just show up in a t-shirt and jeans and everybody else, because we knew what the hell was going on, right? And you see a guy coming in with his suit, he's got his little notepad with him. I'm going to do my chunk about string theory. Dude, no.
Like I see a young guy, and I'm not putting them down, like, you're green newbies, I guess, green, but like, when you go host a show, sometimes it's kind of not bad because like you get it out of the way first. You know, you know what I mean. You get your, but I tell them I'll say just talk to the crowd just for a second. No joke. Just hey, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you guys supporting comedy. I go, it gets them used to your voice. They start liking you. Then they'll take them. Then do your act and they'll go along for the ride with you. But I know guys like screw that. Just go right into their act. Like they don't know who you are. You're the first person. You know, it's butter your bread.
funny thing about it is a lot of times, well, not necessarily now because obviously this is decades later, but back then when the person would get on stage, the MC, a lot of times the MC wasn't the comic, so you know it was like just some dude bringing people up. So you go up there and you just rattle off the jokes. They're like, why is this guy telling jokes before the comedians come on?
I always love when the guy who owned the hall would go up first.
Oh God!
And you give your intro, and he would say your name first, then your credits. You know, yeah. John Kensil, he's been that. Here he is. That's it.
I one of my favorite things was the guy that did the 15-minute intro with no jokes in it.
Oh,
It's like, we also have beef and beers here every Thursday, and bring your beer. The kids are selling cookies. Man, shut up.
There's a comedy club that we know they had two locations, one over a Greek restaurant and another one in Bristol, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one in Bristol, the guy who goes up first, he's the owner, and he tells you what's on the menu. Make sure you tell your friends the filet mignon's half price and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they should have cots and inflatable air mattresses when he's done boring the people to death. And it's brutal.
Remember that place, and I still love that place, even though I've been there in a million years. Remember the kind of food they served there.
Mm-hmm.
At that place, it was like you'd get like a piece of steak, right, with mashed potatoes, and then they'd give you cheesecake. But if you're the feature or the headliner, by the time you get on the stage, they are tryptophan to death.
And they're known for their portions. So if you get like a chicken parm, it's like the size of a catcher's mitt. You bring it home and give it to your grandkids and stuff.
I was going to say it was raining outside once. I just put it on the top of my car.
Brontosaurus burger on the Flintstones. Yeah,
it's like but that's just a weird thing, because it's like I've been talking to a lot of people that have my comedy age, like you do, my comedy age,
right.
And we started in the middle of the comedy boom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole different experience now. And I just had Rich Scheidner on the show, and he's obviously before the comedy boom started. So I'm always curious because I know that a lot of people that got started before the comedy boom, it's a different story. You and I started right around the same time, and we've known each other for years. But what made you decide to do it? Because like everybody who does comedy knows, comedians are a different breed of animal.
Oh yeah.
So, what made you decide? I mean, how did you give me the John Kensil origin story?
It's I've always loved comedy. As a kid, listening to like Bill Cosby records, and as we got older, like Seinfeld and Steve Martin especially. And but I started going to the comedy clubs on like a Friday and Saturday night, just loving it. It was really fun too because you saw people who became stars, like Bobcat Goldthwait and Paul Reiser and Kevin Meaney, and they give him Rich Scheidner.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was so cool when you heard that announcement. Hey, if you think you're funny, every Wednesday night we have an open mic night. So I used to go to the Comedy Works above the Middle East restaurant, mm-hmm. And this is the guys we know, like Paul F. Tompkins and Todd Glass and Adam McKay and
mm-hmm.
A couple other people who went on to become famous. Well, they were at this open mic night, and Steve, I'm telling you, I was really intimidated. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because your comedy's like your little baby. Like, here I'm, right? And I was just, these guys were so like polished at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And finally I had the guts to go up. And then, and it didn't go that bad. I know what happened. So I have my little notebook, my little index cards, and a comic goes, "Hey, you come here every week. Are you gonna do these jokes or not?" I go, "I don't know." And he grabbed the stack out of my hand, goes, "Then I'm gonna go do them." And I go, "Give me them. I'll do it. I'll do it." And then I went up, and it wasn't bad. And like when you fall in love with it, and then I took a comedy class because I didn't know any better. I know some people were down on them, but it's like it showed me how to format things. Not really, here's your road to fame, but it was taught by Tommy Moore at Temple University. And Tommy Moore is an old style vaudeville comic. Like, he tells old jokes, and he has people dress up as farm animals and sings "Old MacDonald Had a Farm." And he does like magic, and he calls himself the professor of comedy. So he's like a throwback vaudeville act. Like, I don't know, but I didn't know any better, and that's not my act at all. Like, a character like that. But just then I started going to comedy clubs all the time. And then I got to know people, and it was neat when you talk to a comic at the bar area, and they're pretty cool, giving you tips and advice, and you felt like you're one of them now. Like, hey, you knew my name, like, hey, John, and it just made you feel good. And then I started going to open mic nights in where I live at Northeast Philadelphia. There was a comedy club that's been there for 30 years too, the Comedy Cabaret.
Yes, indeed.
Which used to be a great, great, great room. I saw Dave Attell there, major New York acts, but the hotel kept going downhill, and it's still there, but I don't know if it's open yet or not. But just like, but I used to work there as a seater, which was cool because you're in the environment, like you're watching people, and you're, what do you call that? Like you absorb it just from being in the environment, like osmosis or whatever you call that. That chemical, that thing we learned in school that's been fitting around, and you feel really, really good. And they would give you 5 minutes on stage, and those little building blocks means a lot. Like you learn how to MC, you learn how to say things properly. What I really liked was sometimes you hear a comic talk about something, and it's not stealing a joke, but in your mind go, "Hey man, I have a story about that too." Like, and you learn how to phrase things, and it's but that's how I did it. And then I got hired doing outside gigs. And Steve, I'll tell you, this is my very first outside of a comedy club hosting a show was at a bar in Bristol, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I didn't realize what it was. And you remember this guy, Baxter?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Big 400-pound mohawk, red-haired guy. Well, it was a real tough bar. And I had all my funny jokes, like my TV-ready jokes. I was all excited to tell them. And I walk out, and I'm the host, and this table wouldn't shut up. And I didn't have any heckler lines ready. I'm trying to get my jokes out, and I couldn't think of anything. And I figure in my mind, I'll tell a street joke. So I tell some street joke, and the freaking table yells out the punchline. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting beat up here. So I just bring the next act up. And it was the coach, Tom Whiteley.
Yeah, I remember him.
And he's a good guy, and he has a very interesting story to hear about him. But he goes up, and he's my friend. He's a good guy, but his whole act was about going to the bathroom and going to the bathroom again, acting a little crazy little character. And I went home. I was so freaking dejected. People were like walking by me, leaving the bar with like neck tattoos, and they give like side-eyed glances, like, that poor sucker, he sucks. Oh, and I was so pissed off, and strangely, the very next month, Baxter asked me to do it again. Right? So I go back, and I'm loaded for bear. The same table that was yelling out was 4 big guys. So I just turned the table on them, started making fun of them. And they shut up. They wanted that. But man, they don't teach you that in comedy classes. And I just did my act, and they went along with it. I showed that I wasn't timid anymore. But boy, I wasn't expecting that. But that was crazy. But then I started going to clubs and doing benefits. I did you do everything. You just want to take any gig you can, Irish shows or cancer benefits, and you really learn. It's weird, man. You want to be a working comedian, That's what you gotta do, man.
I tell whenever I run across a young comic or something like that, I always tell them the same thing, especially if I know they're within their first year. I go, dude, your first year is hazing. It's like you get. It's like being in the UFC. It's like even if you're not a top 15 fighter, the fact that you got hired by Dana means that you accomplished something. I mean, you're better than the other places. Or you're like a bench player in the NBA. You're in the NBA. That's what it's like after the first year because first of all, you don't know what you're doing.
Right? Yes.
You don't know how to write a joke. You don't know how to pace. You have not been in enough situations at all. And that's why I was like, dude, just survive the year. Make your decision after you're 5 months in, dude. You don't know anything yet. You're still getting your ass wiped by your mom right now. So, it's just...
I found my very first set list. I used to keep in my wallet. I had it laminated. And I'm looking at it, and it's like Star Trek jokes where the punchline is oh my God, like that. It was like Tom Arnold getting divorced from Roseanne Barr jokes. And like, they're so awful. And I remember them too. It just made me laugh. I'm like, and then, but I know it's neat though. Like you said, your first year, like, but after a while, you learn how to tell a story that's an observation that only happened to you. And you can, you're not, so it's not really, you're writing a joke from a set list. Like, I'm going to write a joke today about dogs. No, you tell a story about how you're walking your dog and he ran away and what happened to you personally, not a fake joke.
Hey, stop giving away the secrets, man. What the hell's wrong with you? I know. Let them get their ass whipped like we did. The hell with you. Shut up, punk.
I'll tell you, you used to intimidate me. So I'd be at the Comedy Works. I'm sitting at a table right behind Todd Glass, Paul F. Tompkins, John Madden, a bunch of other guys. And a comic would be on stage. And the comic would say, like, it's like, my dog's like, where were you at, master? And the comics would turn to me and go, dogs can't talk. I'm thinking, oh man, there goes half my act. Like, but it intimidated me. That's the thing that people don't get is the simple fact that, this is something that used to happen with girlfriends, and it still does. I'll be sitting there watching a Netflix special, and like the girl's sitting between your legs and she's laughing, and you're just watching it, and you think it's hilarious, but you're watching it as a comic. So you're studying it. And then I'd watch it again and laugh. And she goes, why are you laughing at it this time? And you weren't laughing at it the last time. I said, well, the comedian was watching it last time. Oh, exactly right. It's and I'll tell you, it's so neat because there's people today that like still inspire to be like a better writer or better observationalist. Like I'm saying, like you watch these Dave Chappelle specials, like holy crap, the guy's like he's up there like Richard Pryor and stuff. Like just the way he phrases things and his observations. He's there was a guy at Helium last week, another guy, Brian Regan.
Oh please, Brian Regan. Yeah, Brian Regan's a monster.
There's another guy. If I ever taught a comedy class, it might be getting dated now, but he killed himself years ago. But Rich Jenny.
Yeah.
Oh, he knew how to write a joke and sell it and just act it out and phrase. He had a great voice, and
he was another monster. I mean, it's like you just walk in, and he would hit both of those guys. Regan is another one. I just watched his last special on Netflix. Yeah. He just hits him with these waves. You see these waves of laughs just wash over the audience, like explosions.
Oh my God! Like I'm watching it, and it just builds, and it's such a simple little thing. He talked about. He said, "I checked into a hotel, I think in Chicago, and I flew in, and the girl checked me at the front desk, and she said, we don't have anything for a Brian Regan. Did you check in under a different name?" And he just goes, "Yeah, I do that." And it was such a simple thing. He just acted it out. He kept talking about it. Oh my God, it was just such a simple thing. Oh, and funny.
You ever seen this movie, The Five Deadly Venoms?
Yeah, I heard of it.
A kung fu movie. Basically the whole vibe was it was a mask, and he gave these other guys these super martial arts powers, and then there was a guy that got just a little bit of everybody's powers, and he had to go out and find them. It's like when you watch these dudes, Regans, the Richard Jennies, and people like that, and Jay Leno back in the day. You watch these guys, it's like they found what their style is, and they've mastered it at such a high level that you're looking at, you're like, what the hell? You know, because who was the first comic when you, like, after you got good, after you got to the point where you pretty much knew you were going to go on stage and at least do very well, most likely you were going to kill, but that comic still kicked you in the teeth, and you're going, yeah, I got more work to do. Because there's always one comic, always that first comic that busts your ass and and sends you back to the notepad. Who was the first comic that just, you're like, all right, back to the notepad?
Oh man, I'll tell you, it's well, when I first went to the clubs, the comic that really made me laugh was Grover Silcox.
That's one of my comedy heroes. Yeah.
You know, he's such a nice guy, and he's like Philadelphia's version of Steve Martin. Mm-hmm. He wore a black suit and a white shirt and a tie, and he was just silly. Like he looked more. He didn't look like a comedian. You know, the little mustache, but
he had like a Martin Mull look to him.
Exactly, and that was really cool when like that silly, like I said, Steve Martin. Like he would remember when he would go on stage to the Peter Gunn theme.
Yeah,
and he'd walk through the crowd and point to the light. The music would stop. He'd take a drink, then point, and the music would start up again.
Yeah.
He'd laugh, and then he would go on stage and he'd take his sunglasses off. He had a smaller pair underneath.
Yeah.
Then he would take the microphone out of the stand and wave to people, and they would start talking into the stand, going, "Hello, is there something wrong here? Little sound here," and it was just so silly and funny. And you know, it's a shame too, because he's the man, and I wish he would have got national notoriety. Mm-hmm. But it was, as the time went on, seeing other comics. God, there's the guy Craig Shoemaker from Philly. Mm-hmm. He's the first guy I saw ever get a standing ovation without asking for it. Like, he just was such a polished monster with impressions and act outs. I was like in awe when I saw him perform. But you know, it's weird. I don't know. I'm trying to think, man. Like there's some it's weird. This is, if I say who I liked, it's 20 years ago. I'm like, oh, he was good then. I saw Richard Lewis and Paul Reiser at the Comedy Works, and they were funny then. Mm-hmm. God, who else? I said Shoemaker, Todd. You know, like Paul Tompkins makes me laugh because he's just I'll tell you what they have that's really good too. The way his voice sounds, the tone of his voice is like very ear friendly. How he phrases things.
Yeah, but Paul's always been funny.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
you know what I mean. He's like, you know, I mean, you have to learn the techniques, but he was always funny. Still is. Yeah.
You know, there's a guy, another veteran in Philly. He performs once in a while, but you remember Dennis Horan.
Yeah.
He looks like an accountant or an IRS agent, and he made me laugh too. And it's funny too. I keep mentioning like Tompkins and Todd Glass and stuff. I remember those guys used to look up to Dennis, like just for intelligent writing. I'm trying to think of a national person that I'm like, oh man, Dave Attell. Mm-hmm. Dave Attell, not Chappelle, but Dave Attell. Mm-hmm. He made me realize, like, Steve, I worked with him at Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, and so it was six shows in like 5 nights, and he did a different punchline for his major jokes every night, just tweaked it or said a different punchline. And what he did, he still does it today. He paints such a cartoon image with his punchline that makes me laugh, and it's just so silly. And I see other guys kind of emulate it, like Jim Norton and Bob Levy and Otto and George. A real comic. Like here, take for instance, David Tell said, yeah, it's nice to be here. I did a show in Las Vegas last week, and it was at that. I had to stay at that hotel. It's called New York, New York. He goes, "What a dump!" And he goes, "It was really a dump because the pool had a dead dog in a shopping cart floating in the bottom. It was the dive. And just that weird image just made me laugh. It's like, oh my God.
Well, the thing is, he achieved comedy legend status a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
Well, who's a comics comic? Yeah, well, I think we know who, if you looked up the phrase comics comic, you would see a picture of Dave. You know what I mean? And that's a weird thing. But I mean, it's really weird how when you see somebody and they just, like when you were talking about Grover, because I had Grover on the show early on, and I was just telling them, I said, dude, he was the first great comic I actually ever saw.
Yes.
And so, and I've only been on stage like a handful of times. Yeah. And I saw Grover go on stage and I just went, yeah, I'm doing this wrong. I was like, I saw somebody doing it in a way. I'm like, okay, I want to be as good as this guy. And that's on the local side. On the national side, the person that kicked me in the teeth and sent me right back to the notepad was Emo Phillips.
Oh, yes.
He was a nice guy. We hung out after between shows. Real nice guy, But the thing was, he did a show. I had his album. I had seen his special. Yep. So I had his cassette. That's how long ago it was, kids. I had his cassette. I saw his special. He goes on stage. He does an hour and 10 that is not on the special. That is not on the cassette. He does the second show. It's a different hour and 10 minutes. And I'm going, are you kidding me with this? And I'm sitting there with my little 35 minutes thinking I got something.
He's incredible. And I just worked with him. Well, not just like 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. At it's weird because he's a unique act and he's not like brand new. And so if he gets booked for like a one nighter, not like he's done Helium. But it's a shame because I wish, and I'm not putting Helium down or the Punchline, but people would appreciate him. Instead, he'll do a show, but meanwhile, the next week there's some internet kid who makes funny videos, not really a comedian who will sell the room out. I'm like, man, if you guys appreciate comedy, Emo should be a giant twice-a-year event. But he was at a show, and the legendary Wid opened for him, and then and he went up after Wid, and it was really funny because he picked up Wid's props.
It's kind of hard not to.
He did his own jokes, his own prop jokes, and like he just and it was really neat. When we first saw him, he had that Prince Valiant haircut.
Yeah, yeah.
But then he let his hair go like gray. He had like a crew cut. And he wore glasses, but now he went back to the way he originally looked. But man, he makes me laugh. Like he's got lines. I got to think. So my car wasn't working right, and the mechanic said, "Well, you should check the trans." So I went home I said to my brother, "Take off the dress."
He's one of those guys. You're not going to figure out his punchline.
Oh,
it's just not going to happen.
Oh my God, Steve! Some are so uniquely written that you don't see the punchline anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's just it's so well written, and he remembers them all. And so I bought his CD. Mm-hmm. He was selling his most recent CD, and he autographed it. He said, "John, nice meeting you. Don't steal my jokes." There's no way you can steal his jokes. It's just
because I remember he's like, I was walking down the street and I said, "Oh my God, that's Jimmy Peterson." So I walked up to him and I roughed him up and I said, "How's it going, you old reprobate?" And then I thought, wait a second. If that's Jimmy Peterson, he would have grown up too. So I'm going, no, you don't see that punchline coming. That shit comes up. His punchlines are like sucker punches.
Yes. Well, and he's still doing it today. And it's, oh my God, another guy you mentioned is, remember being a kid, in a 2-year period watching Johnny Carson. Mm-hmm. It was Stephen Wright.
I just watched it the other night. I just watched his first stand up the other night. I just saw it like yesterday. I forgot how good that guy was.
Oh, just his lines are like emo felt, non sequiturs and just his great joke. He goes, the other day I saw a guy with a wooden leg, but a real foot. It's such a joke. Was that I came home to find out in my apartment somebody replaced everything with an exact duplicate. Mm-hmm. So I said to my roommate, "What's going on?" And he said, "Do I know you?"
Yeah, that's the one. That was on his first Tonight Show set. Yeah. Yeah, he did that bit. I just saw him do it as soon as you started the bit. I'm like, yeah, he did that. He just did that on his first. It was his Tonight Show debut. Because then he go back like a few days later again.
Yes,
correctly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like Carson butted him back the fastest he's ever done, and he said he had to scramble for material. But that, like when I was a kid, like that in like a 2-year time period, it was like Seinfeld, Drew Carey, Roseanne Barr, like all those. They're real hot for John Mendoza, some really funny people, and it was so cool when you go down to see him at like David Brenner's Laugh House, and then whatever it became after that, and another guy made me laugh. It's just insane. Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh yeah, I saw him.
Oh my god! And when you see him in concert, at the club, I'm telling you, half the room, if it's usually women, they don't get it. Mm-hmm. He makes me freaking laugh.
Yeah, he came to the. When I was working the door at the Comedy Factory outlet. He was there working, and I had read remember that book Comic Lives?
Yes.
And I was just kind of checking. I was like, I am going to see all of the people in this book at some point, and I made it a point. Now he came to the works. I mean, to the Comedy Factory outlet, and I'm watching him on stage, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man! They were completely accurate about this guy's skill level.
Oh, I'll tell you, he's fearless. He's just that famous story about him in the. When was it? I think it was November after September 11th.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Oh, it was a roast of Hugh Hefner, and you could see people were just walking on eggshells. It just wasn't. Should we laugh? It was just a sad, somber event. And he walks on stage, and he addresses it. He goes, "I was a little late getting here tonight. My plane had a layover at the Empire State Building." And the crowd was like, "No, too soon." And then he didn't give a shit, and he had on with the aristocrats joke. And by the time he was done, it was real. It was the word cathartic. It just we could laugh again. He just had the balls to just go for it, and it was ridiculously funny. And you probably saw the movie too. The movie The Aristocrats.
Yes.
The punchline, the word isn't funny. The Aristocrats. It's the telling of the joke is funnier.
The name, The Aristocrats.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like kids now are desensitized by seeing people getting shot on the internet.
Yes.
We got desensitized really quickly with dirty jokes, so much so that you didn't realize that, when you started to get a little dirty, you didn't even realize it was happening.
Oh, man. I know. I remember the first time I cursed on stage, and some old lady in the audience was like, "Oh my god!"
Because didn't some guy? You see people just losing jobs or stuff that they said 12, 13, 14 years, earlier, and you're going. He's like, yeah, but it's like if the person kept doing it, okay, I get it. But if the person has been spent the last 10, 12, 14 years living a good life, doing good things, and being on the right side of history, you don't go back 15 years and crush the dude.
Oh my God! And you see like Kevin Hart and Eddie
He's
Murphy
apologized.
Yeah. For Delirious, which is Delirious and Raw, are two of the funniest things ever made, and he has to apologize for it. Mm-hmm. And you feel like saying, "Hey, there's put it in context of 35 years ago. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen."
Jesus. It's like I don't want to be judged by shit I said when I was in my 20s. I'm 52 years old. I'm not even the same human anymore.
I sometimes I forget. Like there's videos of people took of me. I mean, I don't care. Put up a line. I don't care. Sometimes I go back and look. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I ran across. I was cleaning up to throw out a bunch of stuff, and I ran across a micro cassette recorder that still worked. Mm-hmm. I put batteries. I'm like, I wonder if this. And I was listening to a set of mine from like 1986, like the first 3 months or so. Ew.
Oh man. I got some VHS tapes in downstairs, and I'm like, oh God, you think it's gold when you're a kid, and then oh God, I'm doing that stupid joke, and I was in Doylestown at the Comedy Cabaret. I was hosting, and I was trying to have fun with the audience. And it was some guy's birthday, and when you're the host, you go, hey, let's wish Joe a happy birthday. So I did that, and the crowd's clapping, and I go, oh Joe, look, we have a card for you. And it was all fake. And I said, Joe, we miss you and haven't seen you for a long, long time. Signed, soap and deodorant. Well, nobody laughed.
Oh, it wasn't come funny. On.
And the guy's like, why? Are you making fun of me? I use soap and deodorant.
Oh, man. It's like, well, you got to realize that Joe was related to the character Captain Obvious. Well, yes. Joe's his cousin, Captain Literal.
One of my second shows I ever did outside a comedy club was at a place called Havana's in New Hope for this woman Nancy Fitch. Mm-hmm. And God, this is like early 90s, mm-hmm. and this guy was hosting, and he was awful. And somebody in the audience was ordering a drink, not heckling, just saying, hey, can I get some drink over here? So the host said, hey buddy, don't try and do my job, and I won't come down to your job and tell you how to make hamburgers. Like an old stock heckler line. The guy in the audience said, well, maybe you should, and I'll make you what you like. And the comedian was like stunned, like, what would I say? And he had no second heckler line. And the guy got thrown out. But it just made me laugh.
It's like, I'll be honest with you. I'm very, very proud to say that I have never, ever used one of those lines. I don't come to your job. Hey, how about I come to your job and slap the, it's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh God, stop. Yeah. Because I remember and I used to see people use that line all the time. And the bad part about it is if you run across an audience member with natural timing and they respond to you and you're like, and the guy's like,
I know a comic, his name was Bob, and his act sucked. He won't know who we are, but he had a good heckler line. And he would look for excuses to use it. And like I said, if someone orders a drink too loud, he would just point to somebody in the audience and say, hey, buddy, did you ever see an a-hole wrapped in plastic? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, well, look at your license. And so his only good line was a heckler line. And he laughed.
That is the, I never understood, because the thing is, I've always looked at at comics, and I would say to people when I was a kid, they would always, people would give me these heckler lines. You should say this, man. If a guy ever says this, you should say this. And I'm looking at the guy like, why would I want to? Because first of all, I'm not the largest human being in the world to begin with. Okay, so it's not like I'm going to go in and start pissing off people, and it's like I'm not like some 6'4" guy. I'm a little dude. I'm like average height. So it's not like I can go around, I'll kick your butt. Come on.
I have done it a little bit, but that's sometimes like walking a tightrope. But I don't do crowd work, but I will ask a question so it can lead to your joke, your story. But I don't know if I have the guts to, hey, buddy, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Even though I know all the lines, I I never wanted to be that guy because like, why do you have your notebook in your pocket to write jokes down? And there's a guy, he's a veteran New York guy, but he comes down here a lot, and he's so entertaining. But JJ Ramirez.
Yep.
And I remember I was in awe watching him work the crowd on a Friday night. It was hilariously devastated people, and he loved it. It was very funny. At the end of his act, he does a dating game. I was like, this guy is the greatest person. I can't believe he had so many. So the next night, he does the exact same show. Here, he's just such a veteran. He just goes on, I don't want to say autopilot, but he just knows how to say the same lines to everybody knowing, and he's such a polished performer. But I was in awe the first time I saw him. I still am in awe of him, but it just made me laugh. He's a professional, man. He's great.
When my grandfather, when I was a kid, he used to show me how to do these card tricks all the time, right? And it was a very simple card trick, but when the person who's looking at it is like, whoa, and I was like, wow, how does this work all the time? It's like, I can't mess this card trick up. Obviously, I can't remember it now because it's 700 years ago. But I was like, it's like, I'm a little kid, and it's like, I'm amazing adults. And when I started doing comedy, I started hanging out with the magicians, and it's called forcing a card. So basically, it's like you all are always pushing that card down the person's throat. They don't realize it, but you're forcing that card on them, so they can't not pick the card you want them to pick. A person, when you were describing JJ Ramirez with his crowd work, he's doing the comedic equivalent of forcing a card. It's like, look, I'm going to force this response out of you, which is going to line up right with the joke I want. So no matter what you do, you're going to give me the response I want, and I'm going to get that's a professional that knows exactly what he or she is doing. They can force you into, and you can do it. I can do it. It's like I can make the audience say what I want them to say. They don't know I'm doing it. But you can do it. We've been doing it for 30-something years. You can force the audience. You can trick them into saying into the response you want, and they love it.
And isn't that really cool too? Like when you're as a comedian, when you observe it, like this guy knows how to his techniques. I know some guys. Whenever they do a line, they get an applause break, and my friend Chip Chantry has a very funny line, and he always gets an applause break at the end of the line. I'm like, it's how he builds it. He says like three things. He describes something, and he goes, my way of love making technique. And he says three things, and the third one's the big capper, and the audience just claps their hands. Another guy, Joey Callahan, he's a speech major from like Lockhaven University, but his batting average is like 5. He knows how to just deliver it. I'm always amazed by that. I'm always like scratching through my mind of what new jokes I want to do. I'm worried about the newness. Something new you wrote. That's something I'm always going for because it makes your adrenaline flow. Like oh my god, I have a new joke. I can't wait to tell it. And sometimes you walk out and you wind up doing the same jokes you've always done. But I always try and keep at least one, say something new for once. But that's isn't that neat though? Like you said about the force card. When you just mentioned magic too, how about our local guy Norm Clark?
Yeah, yeah. And Jimmy does it. Jimmy does magic too. Jim Daly.
Oh, Jim Daly, another guy, another pro. Oh my God, it's funny that makes me laugh. I love that stuff.
Yeah, Jim. I remember I worked with Jim, and he goes, "Yeah, you want to find out how I do this trick?" And I go, "Okay." He showed me that trick where he puts the needle through the arm.
Oh man,
he showed me how he did that, and he also showed me the hitting your arm with the knife. He showed me how to do those tricks, and I was like, it looks simple, but pulling it off smoothly as he does is not simple.
Oh my God, no. Norm Clark showed me that one where he puts the needle through his arm, and then he used to put it. He would put the needle through his arm, but he would thread it, like put a piece of yarn through it.
Oh yeah,
and then he would rip it out. Like yeah, what was I going to say? You just him doing that. Oh, that guy Baxter we mentioned earlier. He did the famous routine where he gets a $5 bill off you. You write your name on it, puts it in an envelope.
Yeah.
He lights it on fire. At the end of his act, he cuts open an apple or an orange, and there's the $5 bill. And well, I was working with him one time in the Poconos, and at the end of his act, he goes to cut the apple open, and here he slices his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He cut right through his palm, and Steve, their blood's spurting out. And he goes, "Oh, I'm feeling lightheaded." And at first I thought it was a joke. He's doing some whole routine, and then I had to get bar rags and take him to the hospital. It's just brutal. And he was dressed as Alibaba. These big pointy shoes and pantaloons, oh my God, and a turban.
Somewhere there's a couple of nurses and doctors going, this is a guy that came in dressed like a. It's like that's what everybody has, like 5 stories they like to tell, and even to this day, about 30 years ago there was a guy that came into the ER dressed up like.
There's a magician, but he looked like a creep to me.
Because everybody has those stories they like to tell. Everybody has 5 funny stories. When you meet a new person, you're trying to give them an idea of who you are. You got the 5 stories. Comedians, we all have 7,427 stories. This is like an unknown. We could tell a different story to each person we meet forever and never run out.
And that's why I love that first book by Rich Scheidner about hell gigs or the road stories. Mm-hmm. But the very first story in there deals with Philadelphia. It was the very first story in that first book by Rich Scheidner. It's Todd Glass and Larry Miller at the Comedy Works and in Philadelphia. And they had it on a Friday night when the shows were over at the comedy clubs at like 1 a.m. Mm-hmm. They had to go over to Cherry Hill, New Jersey and do a prom show for prom kids. And they figured if the kids won't be drinking, they'll have a little comedy show. So the kids were all there, and Larry Miller walks out on stage and says, "Oh, it's nice to be here. I just went to my high school reunion. It was neat seeing your old gang again. Like you see your old friends. I know, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Your old girlfriends. Hey, how you doing? And you see your old teachers, and you're like, hey, Mr. Smith, sorry about lighting you on fire that time." Well, he says that line, and he said the whole room went deadly silent, and he could see Todd Glass giving the neck sign, like, get over here. And he goes, what? What's the matter? And they stopped the show. And the principal pulls Larry Miller into the hallway and says, How could you? And Larry Miller goes, what? He goes, our beloved science teacher, Mr. Smith, died in a house fire last week. And Larry Miller goes, do you really think I researched the worst thing I could possibly get and know the guy's name? And he said they had to leave. They didn't get paid, and they thought they were going to get killed. That's one of my favorite stories. When he tells it, you can find it on YouTube. It's hilarious.
Man, I wish I'd have known about the damn show. I'd have known about that when I had him on the damn show. I'd asked him about it. Jeez, but that is a. I don't. You have. Well, see, the thing is, it's weird for me asking you about hell gigs. Because normally I always ask comics about hell gigs, because there's a 99.5% chance that if you talk about a hell gig, I was either there the week before you or the week after you at the same place. But I'm going to ask anyway. Can you think of like one where you're like, oh my God, I might not get out of here?
Oh, what's that one? It was in Jersey. Betty's Fireside.
Oh God, Jesus Christ!
He was standing for a fireplace. It was like a biker bar. Oh. And I'll tell you, it's hell gigs. I'm telling you, I used to get picked because I'd be the sacrificial lamb. I would just go up and they would just rip him to shreds, and I just start laughing because it was just so awful. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it takes you a while too to realize it's not you. They're just drunken monsters. Mm-hmm. But I've done hell gigs where I've done I did a retirement home where like people in their 80s and up with oxygen tubes just staring at me. And I did a couple with the legendary widower Pat O'Donnell, mm-hmm. and they just stared at me. And I'm like, what am I even doing comedy for? This is why? So I sat back and go, all right, my 20 minutes are done. I'm going to watch what the headliner does. And Pat O'Donnell and Wid both sang songs to the audience. They sang Danny Boy, and they loved them. No jokes, just sang a couple songs. They got off. I was, but hell gigs. My God, some guy bought a riverboat and we drove around the bays of Atlantic City, and you had to do time. There was no light, and the whole time you heard the paddle wheel spinning. I'm like, oh my God. I did a show in Sea Isle, and nobody showed up. So the guy who booked it said, here, why don't you do this? And you had like a Time Life operator headphone, like microphone, like around your head. And he goes, go up to every single person at the bar and do your act, or you're not getting paid. And I'm like, F this, I ain't getting paid. See you later. And I left. You got to have some kind of integrity. I got to think, man. There's some gigs that I don't want to remember them.
Yeah, they're oof.
I got booked in New York at Caroline's with Wid. I'm like, oh my God, Caroline's, this is going to be great. Yeah, oh my God, Caroline's, they have a TV show. And it was a Monday night. And I was so excited. It was a pain in the ass too, because I have a pickup truck. I had to drive all my stuff, all of Wid's props up to Caroline's. And here the audience is on Monday and Tuesday nights. It's all tourists.
Yeah.
It was 150 people from Sweden. And they stared at me for 10 minutes, and they stared at Wid for half an hour. And he's hilarious. They didn't know what he was doing. They didn't speak American. Like, what do you even go to a comedy show for?
that is the. I've heard friends go to a place, and the whole audience was Japanese, which is no big deal. But they didn't speak English. And I'm sitting there going, nobody cares about what country you're from or anything like that. That doesn't matter. But you got to at least, because people just take the money. They don't give a crap. Somebody makes the call. I have a big group who's from Japan, because I've done gigs, and you've probably done gigs too, where it's a bunch of people from another country. They're from Japan, they're from China, but they speak English. So you do your act, and it's like they laugh at it. It's like if I went to China, I'm sitting in the audience, and I only speak English, and they're doing something. I'm going, I really have no idea what you're saying.
As we were speaking, like something like that, the worst gig I've ever had, it was in the Poconos. It was 2 Christmases ago. I heard office party, but it wasn't. It was a company party in the Poconos for miners in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Big catering hall, and we walk in, and every single person in there was all men. They all had on a dirty gray sweatshirt with a hood on it, jeans and work boots that weren't tied. Mm-hmm. And these guys are hardworking miners. I think that wasn't like gold miner, coal. It was granite. Mm-hmm. So they worked hard all day long, and they go up for getting drunk, and they had a catering hall. And my God, I was with some really funny people, and the joke was, you could see how long you're going to last, because they were screaming out the whole time. So I watched what they did to the MC. I'm like, I'm not going to let them get me. So I pull my phone out, and I memorized like 6 really dirty jokes. I told them, and they laughed at me, and I got off. Well, then Wid had to go up, and he has all props. And he really had to work the crowd, because they weren't even listening. And that was probably the worst gig I ever had. And I learned now. I didn't take it personally. But man, if I ever had it again, screw that. I'm going to bring a piece of loose leaf up with 15 dirty jokes in it, stand and recite them like like Paul Revere, one of those guys with the paper. Hear ye, and tell
hear ye, your mothers are all whoas.
Because and you hear some people going, "Oh no, have integrity," and comics are no way. This is a nightmare. I'm not going to give them any material. It was awful.
Yes, sometimes it's just like it's just a waste of time. It's like hitting a brick wall with your hands. It's like I'm going to need these hands for something later. You know what I mean? Let me ask you: have you ever done? Now I know that. Let me tell you about the audience. A third of the audience for this show was like 18 to 24. The other 2/3 are obviously an even mix of the other ages. So there's so for the young kids, these are stories from like the 80s, and the 90s. So some of this stuff may not necessarily happen now. But let me preface this. So, have you ever? I'm assuming you John, you've done the Bergville tour. I call it
Harrisburg, Gettysburg.
Yeah, I call it the Bergville tour because like you do your weekends, but like Mondays through Thursdays, bookers would call my house. Hey, Mr. Steve, what's going on? Yeah, I got the six shows for you. You do 3 on the way out and 3 on the way back. This was a Viggyverg, this Berg. And I'm going, I said, that's when I started calling it the Bergville tour. Cause I took all of them. Every time they called, I took them, and when you go out to these shows, you don't know cause sometimes you remember, Lancaster, when you would go up to Lancaster in the early days and you didn't know, I think a guy named Lee J. Nelson booked it. And you'd walk and you'd look and I was like, there's nobody here. What the hell? You have me come all the way out here in this? And you open up the door and there's like 300 people. Yeah.
I took a bunch with Mike Stankiewicz.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, you do learn by doing them, but it's that's when we first started talking, like, they're not going to get your New York or Los Angeles set you have in your head. Like, cause you love Eddie Murphy and stuff. Like, you guys, basic stuff to talk to them. But you're right. So that could be what the hell's the guy's name? The booked room in Lancaster, the Villa East.
Oh, I played the Villa East 14 billion times. Yeah.
And I was I thought it was so cool. Well, that was my first time I stayed in a hotel. They gave you a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always something else going on in the hotel besides comedy. I did it one time. I think the last time I did it was there was a barbershop quartet convention. So every time the waitress like walked out of the room to go to the bar to get your drinks, as the door swung open, you would hear like bum 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 bum, my honey, and it was, oh my God. I'm like, I was laughing so hard because every time the door swung open, you heard barbershop quartet practicing in the hallway, and I'm like, we can never top this. 6 months later,
I don't know if I would be able to stop laughing to do my set.
I was like, this is ridiculous. It's just like you'd see it in a movie. 6 months later, I get booked there again. He book you twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
I go there. It was the National Turkey and Duck Call Association. And it's people who made turkey and duck calls. So, I heard it in the hallway like the whole time.
And it was crazy. And it echoed through that kitchen in the back with the tile floors, and it would just go bouncing around in there. And because that place always cracked me up. And for these gigs that you do during the week when you're a comic, because people think that we only work on the weekends. Nah. Yeah. It's like when you do during the week, some of the clubs were open during the week, they at some point they started opening up during the week. But the thing is, if you wanted to make a quick $150,
yeah,
you take two bar gigs or some, I remember, what was that place, the Fun House in Bethlehem?
Yes.
Oh
my God. I haven't thought about that in 20 something years. I would do them with like Bob Levy would take me on the road, and I thought, oh, this is cool. I'm with a veteran comic, and oh my God, it's in the middle of the week, like a Wednesday nighter, and you stand in front of a pool table.
That's right, the pool table. That's right, I forgot about it. Yeah. That used to. I remember one time the place was full and I'm doing a set, and the pool table was like stage left. So I looked to the left, and the guy's like. And that's when I knew the set was going well, is he would not take a shot until people were laughing.
Oh,
so I'll be like, yeah. And then when they started laughing and clapping, then he'd take a shot. So I was like, and I started looking, I was like, this guy loves me because he ain't taking a shot until your asses are laughing. And I don't think he did it consciously, but it was just like, I'm going to see what this guy's saying. And then when they're laughing, clack. So of course that first pool game took 90 minutes. But But I didn't mind at all because the other comics, the other comics didn't show up, so I had to do the whole show. But it was just like a funny. I'm sitting there going, don't you realize this guy pays in cash? I think they just kind of blew it off because they didn't think it was because he paid a lot better, way better. I mean, he made it worth the while to show up.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That was fun. Like you go down to Delaware to some like little shore town.
Oh yeah.
And in the middle of the week, some surf bar. It was just and sometimes people would say to me, "Hey John, sometimes you shut your eyes on stage. Are you nervous?" I'm like, "No, this is a hell gig. I just can't wait to get out."
It's funny when you do gigs that kind of suck a little bit, how accurate the clock in your head gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know damn well to get paid here in this piece of crap place.
Yes,
I have to do 30 minutes, but I have, but then and some guys, if the crowd really blows, they'll shave a couple minutes. Like if you get off in 28, they'll accept it. But I refused. If I said I'm doing 30, I'm doing 30. F these people. You know what I'm saying? And this is like, because I don't want to hear it. Because sometimes these guys, you did 29 minutes and 52 seconds, buddy.
It's fun. There's people who are like that. Like it's like saying, "Hey, look, this is a bar. It's not a comedy club where the show's supposed to be an hour and a half." Look, these people. They're all drunk. They can't even focus on your attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's what scares sometimes when you headline is these people have been drinking for 50 minutes before you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the alcohol's settling in, like, and they got to pay attention to you. Like, sometimes it's at sweet spots when you feature.
Mm-hmm.
They're warmed up. They're not drunk yet. Yeah, that's a better one.
I still remember a place that I played. I forgot where it was, but they would throw ketchup bottles at the stage. Right? They threw ketchup bottles, and they didn't even really clean the walls off. You can see like ketchup splatter on the walls, right? So the first act goes up. He goes up. F this runs off. The feature goes up. Cause I'm expecting I'll do my 45, to be all right. The feature goes up. F this gets off, and the guy goes, "You got to fill the time, buddy, or I'm not paying anybody." And I'm like, "It's all on me.
It's your fault.
It's my fault that you give ketchup bottles to your audience members." So I go on stage, and I started. You remember how you were messing with the dudes in the audience that tried to intimidate you?
Yes.
So I was like, well, there's a good chance they're going to throw a bottle at me. So I just started breaking their balls as hard as possible.
Yeah.
It was like that Bill Burr thing that he did in Philadelphia.
Yes. Oh, that was so great.
I'm verbally pulling their balls off, their eyes out. I'm destroying these people. I'm hitting them with everything in the throat, and they're laughing their asses off. And then I remember when I stopped the section when I was blasting, I was like, "And F y'all, I like mustard anyway, bitches." I said something like that to them, and then they stood up, yay, and then I just went into my act, and they loved it, and I'm like, complete fluke that worked.
And then sometimes you look at your watch and you did like more than an hour.
Yes.
Steve, I moved to. I lived in LA about a year and a half, about 10 years ago.
I was just about to ask you about that. I got to hear this. Go ahead.
Well, and what's just LA. Of course, you don't get paid for comedy out there, but that's how you get discovered.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to open mic nights, and it kind of sucks because like around here, this part of the country, they got a little bit of a name. Like, I know that guy, he's funny. Out in LA, nobody knows you, and as you get older, good luck, right? But it's so you start doing open mic nights. It might take a year or two to get known, but there's a guy out there who does there's like Berg rooms that's called a Tribble Run.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name's like Dave Tribble.
Yep.
Well, somebody took me on a road with him, and it's the same thing as the Bergs. Only you go out of like Bakersfield and upstate California, and it's all dive bars, and you get like $50 a show, and you do like 7 nights in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And it's experience, but man, you'll hear veteran comics go, "Hey man, did you ever do a Tribble Run?" It's just the same thing, man. Like,
mm-hmm.
but you think, "Hey, I'm a working comic," but you're getting $75 for some nightmare bar. Sometimes you got to sleep in your car. I'm like, I didn't want this. That's one of the reasons I moved back. I got paid around here.
Yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, when I was offered some stuff like that, I asked around. I was like, I just left that, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that, because I had friends that did gigs. They went all the way from Southern California all the way up to Oregon and Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and they came back and they're like, "Yeah, I did." I said, and they were describing it to me, and I'm like, "You going to do it?" I'm going, "No," because that state of California is huge.
Oh, I would have friends. They would be in LA and they would get a show up above San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And it was $348 for airfare, and you're leaving. You're in the same state, and I go, are you getting paid enough? Are you going to make enough money to come back with some money? And they go, well, it is if I stay at a youth hostel. So they're in some crappy boarding house with German people who can't speak English, and you're a comedian. You got to catch an Uber to a club. You figure, is it really worth it? Like, I'm not putting you do it, but do it once. But I know guys who were like our age, you still do it. Like, really, is it? Why don't you start to look for a writing gig or something? Like, ugh, oh my God.
I lived in a youth hostel for a year.
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not going back. I'm going to see what's going on. Because I lived in LA from 93 to close to 2000. And that's because I remember when you left, what was it like for you? Because I know when I originally got there in 93, I was just going out there to audition for some stuff, and I was going to come back, but I decided I obviously stayed for 7 years. So,
yeah.
But when you went out there, did you have I'm assuming you had an idea of what LA was, and then you got there and you were like, oh, good. What the hell is this?
You hit the nail on the head there. Like, as a kid growing up, you watch TV, you think, oh, LA's, it's Hollywood, Rolls Royces and palm trees and hot girls, and right. And then you get there, and it's like a shore town, but no, I mean,
yeah,
it's expensive rent. I always say this. I don't know how my friends who are still out there, they have wives with good jobs or husbands with good jobs or a well-to-do family. I don't know. My apartment was as big as like someone's living room, and it was $950 a month. And you can't. I don't know. I mean, you make it out there now on that. But I started working doing like extra work and little film roles I could get. Mm-hmm. And it's weird too when you see that too. It's just a job. If you go on a TV series, it's a job. You go like you're working anywhere. Only there's it's not what I thought it was. As a kid growing up, I thought you're gonna make a lot of money, go to parties and drink champagne, and then you realize it's a job like any other job. You're a teacher, a builder, a carpenter. It's just a job. And it's you can see, man. Like plus, I was pushing 40 when I went out there,
mm-hmm.
and that which I might as well have been like Grandpa Munster, an old guy. Oh, he's going to be telling jokes about it's just but it's weird, and and I realized it wasn't. You like you watch those videos. A young girl who goes up to become a starlet. Next, she's doing porno films, or like it's because it's not this. It's not this great magical super thing. But it'd be cool to get on a show, like get on like do like what stinks too. I go out there like when we were younger, Johnny Carson made your career, like Emo Phillips and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm out there, there was 20 late night guys. Like even today, this guy was on Jimmy Fallon. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
you could just say it.
You got to do like 15 of them.
You know what
I mean, because people are like, yeah, all right. I just did this nice show. That's cute. So anyway, and it's because I still I just remember being out there, and I remember when I was out there for a couple of years, and I realized what was going on. Actually, I figured it out really fast. Like within a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, this is bullshit. So because I remember the first thing I did, I stayed in a it was a place called the Vine Lodge Hotel up the street from Capitol Records, and it was one of those hotels where everybody in the hotel looked like they got out of jail yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about for tax evasion. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what blood tastes like. Okay, buddy. Right. So, and I'm offended by the fact that they thought I fit in with them. I'm like, I don't know if the fact that they think I'm one of them I think I'm kind of insulted by this crap. Because it was like it was just one of those weird things where and then you see the new people coming in and they think that everything is going to be hunky dory. Man, who can turn the world on with a smile?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
who can take nothing. They think it's the Mary Tyler Moore show. They're going to spin around and throw their hat up and they're going to come down with an Oscar in it. And it's like, nope.
Especially when I did extra work. On TV shows, we're kids, comics. We always love TV and films, but I saw how they're made, and you realize it's just a job. It's I only did a handful of sitcoms, but the extra work was just being playing different in the background. But man, it's an assembly line. That's what it is, and they get paid very nicely. But you're right. It's imagine a girl's real pretty. I'm going to go to LA, and if they wind up doing modeling and porno and stuff like that because it wasn't what they thought, and they don't want to go home with their tail between their legs. Like, ugh. I also noticed too about comedy out there. The people I became friends with were from the East Coast, like our area, or like the Boulder, Denver, Colorado. They're very Pennsylvania, Philadelphia-ish, if that's a phrase. I thought that was really amazing. You think you don't have an accent until you go out there. And you hear the Philly accent, you drop your G's, you get some water and hot dogs.
I really thought that I didn't have any accent. I really did. Until dudes started walking up on me and going, hey, let me ask you a question. You from That's where they got. I mean, it was a pizza place. It was across the street from my apartment at the time. It's up by where Jimmy Kimmel is now, and it was a pizza place. It was a pizza place right on the corner, and I grabbed the pizza, and everybody else is putting it in a bag, and I pick it up. I'm like, nah, just give me the plate. I fold it in half, and I'm walking down the street eating it, and a guy walks behind me, and goes, hey, let me ask you a question. You from back east? I go, yeah. He goes, Philly, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, and I said, let me guess, you're from New York. How'd you know? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I said, you get the Statue of Liberties falling out of your mouth every time you say something. How do I know where you from? Hey, so you and me are the only two people around here that are walking down the street eating the freaking pizzas. It was the funniest. It was hilarious. We were just because like New York, Philly, New York, New Jersey, Boston guys, we automatically find each other and just get next to each other.
I will say though, after being out there for like a year and a half, I was speaking much more slower.
Yes, damn it! Say that again because everybody thinks I made that up.
No, you do. You come back. I was speaking slower and more like they spoke, and then you come back to Philadelphia, and you like a waitress was like, "Use guys right order next in line, Philadelphia," and you just slowly ease back into that accent.
Yeah, because it's like I'll put it this way: we're both on a show right now, and we're both talking a lot slower. If I snap my fingers like this. And you and I were both sitting across the table at the South Street Diner. We both be like back and forth at that speed.
Exactly.
Because I remember I was doing ribbon sales and toner sales, and I'm on the phone. I had just gotten out there. I'm like, why do I said, all right, let me get a regular job for a while. I still had some money in the bank, and I don't want to touch it. Right, so I'm on the phone talking to people. Hey, ribbons. Could you? He goes, hey, baby, could you slow down a little bit? Cause you're talking too fast for me. And I'm like, oh God. Do you want the ribbons or the toner?
That's when I was out there, I went to get my hair cut, and I went to some of my little store. It said walk-ins welcome, and I said, "Hi, I want to get my hair cut." And the woman talking that laid-back California accent, and she said, "Wow, where are you from? England, Scotland?" I go, "No, Philadelphia." She goes, "Philadelphia? Oh my God!" And she was so like Tommy Chong.
Yeah.
Wow, where are you from? Like Owen Wilson. Wow.
Wow. Oh, I remember the first time I went out there, and I had a friend out there named Woody, little blonde guy, and he literally was like, "Hey, bro, dude, bro." He hit me with, like, I used to call him dude, bro. And he wasn't offended at all, because he's like, "Hey, dude, you coming to the thing, bro? Because, like, dude, bro, dude, bro," had a surfboard and the guitar. I'm going, they should just put you on the poster for California, dude. Because you're like a handsome blonde guy that says dude and bro and won't wear a shirt for some reason.
I know people like that too. Yeah, there's so many characters out there, and it's funny when you said about the Capitol Records building. I lived about 4 blocks from there on Franklin and Cahuenga, or Franklin and Whitley. My street was Whitley.
I know those streets.
Yeah. And but I'll tell you, there were so many homeless people sleeping in their cars, because if you're going to be homeless, like California is where it's at. Like there was cars parked on the 101 under the ramp there for the highway. 80 cars, people were all living in them. It just, it's, I don't know, man. Plus, when you were there a little bit before me. Well, that area was kind of a hellhole, like Hollywood.
Oh yeah, you could catch an ass whooping real easy in Hollywood when I lived there.
But they have been changing. It's been getting a lot better in the past 10 years. They're redoing stores and stuff.
This is not a joke. This is not what I'm about to say. I got my first apartment there, and I had my first brand new car in California. And so I'm walking out the back of my apartment, and there's a sign across the street that says, "Don't sell drugs here. We have cameras now." It was those big signs that go from building to building. Normally, it's and it was this, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, that must have been." I'm literally thinking, well, they shoot a lot of TV shows here. Maybe they left a prop there. No, they did. There was not a prop. I thought it was. I ignored it. I just, because sometimes, like when it's a movie set, people sometimes they'll leave some stuff around. They'll leave a little prop here, and somebody will come back later. It was for real, and I walked down that block, and I'm going, "Oh my God!" Apparently, either these people can't read or they don't care. Because
oh my God, they do. Yeah,
they're doing it anyway.
I have a joke in my act. But it really, when you do comedy long enough, your true stories. Like when I lived in LA, some guy yelled out, "Yo, come here." I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yo, man." And he said, "You want to buy 20 pounds of lumped crab meat?" And Steve, I never heard. That's a weird sentence. Those words don't go together. And here he was selling crab meat out of a bag. Like, ugh, dude, it's gross. It's just crazy out there. But you're right, though. It's else was weird too in your apartment. I'm laying in bed at night thinking, "Oh, I'm in Hollywood. John, you made it. You did it." And then I realized it was like living on the Wildwood Boardwalk, and people were just going up and down the streets, and the helicopters.
The helicopters. God damn it. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. And first, like coming your window. At night, so now it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're finally getting to sleep, and the palms fall off the palm trees. And you're and they hit bars and make alarms go off, and then you go outside and look at it's nice sunset, nice sunrise, and the sidewalk is filled with snails. You gotta watch. I was up in the Hollywood Hills. I was afraid to move my truck that I still have today. I had to, you have to move your car to the other side of the street every single night, and parking up there was really prime. Like you want to keep your spot. I would leave my car there for 3 days because if I moved it, somebody else would take it. my spot. Like it just sucked out in the park all the way up the hill. And it was just brutal. And I have a pickup truck. It was about twice the size of every car there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about it, first of all, it's only technically two-way up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
it's like if you speed on a turn up there, it's almost like if you don't have a head-on collision.
Yes. Yeah.
You realize it's like, because I used to drive up there, and this is something that's absolutely hilarious. I was with a lady and we were doing something, if you understand what I'm saying. And the window was open and the helicopter spotlight, how can I put this, was on my ass while I was, taking care of business. And we stopped, we just both turned around and looked out the window and started laughing because obviously they couldn't see us. But it's like, for whatever reason, the camera, and we're both laughing. I'm going, man, I must be doing some good work. They stopped that helicopter because they wanted to see what I was doing. Because the thing, and after a while, you don't even necessarily even hear. I stopped hearing it because you get used to the big black helicopter coming by looking for somebody that you don't hear it anymore. But when you were up in the Hollywood Hills, I mean, did you have any of those star sightings at all?
Oh yeah. I can't think of the name of the supermarket I used to go to.
Ralph's.
Ralph. Yeah, I think it was Ralph's, but it was down the end of Franklin Avenue. But I would go in there and I would spend an hour walking through the store, just buying a loaf of bread because I would see celebrities. I'd see one time I saw Johnny Mathis in there, and I'm like, oh my god, Johnny Mathis. Ralph Malph. I saw. One night. There was a comedy club there, the Upright Citizen Brigade. There's one in New York, UCB. But you walk by or you stand in line, and I see Robin Williams will come in to watch the improv shows. I'd see, and that was neat seeing stars of shopping. And you realize they're just regular people. They're not. It's like. Like when you go to a horror convention, Robert Englund is not really Freddy Krueger. It's just a guy paid for a job.
That was the weirdest thing in the world because we were sitting. I mean, every time I would go to that Ralph's, there was always these, and you see these ultra stars in there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then in the back of your mind, you're going, "What's that person doing there?" Like Halle Berry don't like grapes. It's like, why she's in the store? Because she wanted some grapes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What's Sandra Bullock doing in here? Buying food, bro.
Yeah. Oh, my friend used to run a real nice high-end coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And every day I would come in, we'd give me free coffee, we'd just hang out and talk. But he said, look over your shoulder. And we saw Renee Zellweger was sitting there with a big giant glass of water for about an hour, just walking on her phone. But it was Renee Zellweger. Like, wow.
It is just an amazing thing. Well, let me ask you this, because I want to grab this. What are you doing as far as because I saw you did an interview. I was looking for some stuff online before I talked to you. Every time I have a guest on, it doesn't matter whether I know them or not, I always go looking for stuff online. Because I'm asking you because like I said, I was asking you your origin in comedy. Like, we haven't had this discussion personally already 900 years ago, but I wanted to get it recorded for the audience. But podcast, Zoom shows, things of that nature. What's the deal with you and things like that as far as hosting podcasts and hosting live shows and stuff like that?
I host a bi-weekly podcast. It's called Cancel Culture. And it's just me and Legendary Wid, and we talk about movies and music and weird stuff that happened to us. And it makes me laugh because I'll talk about stuff like people you're and I age, funny stuff. But meanwhile, Wid knows things that happened like 1925. And I'll tell a story about like Sophie Tucker, and she met somebody, and I'm like, Wid, it's a great story, but nobody today knows.
Let me tell you something. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. Sophie Tucker.
And I'll tell you, over the pandemic quarantine, I did a bunch of. Fortunately, they weren't Zoom comedy shows, but I have watched a couple, geez, how horrible. But I did do about 4 or 5 game shows. Some people did like the match game, and there's like 6 like Zoom calls, but our 6 faces there, like just like the match game or Hollywood Squares. Well, that was really fun to do them. But my God,
I can see that. See, stuff like that I can get behind. It's like when Bill Maher had Politically Incorrect and all those kind of shows. I love that stuff because you can go on, you can be funny, you can show people who you are, you can have a good time, and not burn your act. You do a Zoom show, you're basically recording big chunks of your act.
Yes.
And I'm like, no.
And there's no audience, and it was fun. I did it with a woman who must have done what we should all probably be doing when you do a Zoom thing. She had a professional lighting. She had the green screen background, and she had a filter on her computer to take any wrinkles out of her face. It was like she looked like she was on Entertainment Tonight, and meanwhile I looked like I was changing the oil in a Jiffy Lube pit. I'm like ghoulish looking. My face is too close to the camera. And she looks like she's like somebody on TV.
It probably looked like a episode of Meet Your Stalker.
Exactly.
How's everybody doing? Oh, I know how you're doing. See, look out, I'm in the tree. See? Oh, by the way, hold on for a second. By the way, 10, 15 years from now, John and I were laughing about stalking. We just want to let you know that we don't agree with stalking. Stalking is a bad thing, and we both want to host the Oscars. Thank you. And also, all those gigs that we were talking about at the bar gigs, we both paid extra taxes on all that money. Thank you very much. I want to point that out. But that is an interesting thing. What do you think about podcasting? What do you think about that?
I'll tell you.
This one's incredible. I mean, I just want to let you know that we need to just establish that before I edit it to make you look bad. Just point that out.
That's right. You're right. I'll tell you. It's when I listen to terrestrial radio, I put it on. It drives me crazy. Every 3 songs, there's a commercial. But now I just stick my phone up when I listen to podcasts. If I'm on a long comedy ride for like 2 hours and 2 hours back, I'll listen to a variety of podcasts, and not necessarily comedy. Some of those murder mystery ones, like you don't want to get out of your car to hear, oh, what happened at the end? But an interesting podcast, I'm all for that.
Okay, so you like the true crime stuff?
Well, comedy, then the true crime stuff.
Okay, what's your favorite? I mean, okay, I have. Have you ever heard of Young Charlie?
Who is that? I know that. I've heard. I got to think about it.
Oh, God, dude, bro. It's a podcasting thing called Wondery. They have not effed up once. Like every freaking show, boom, boom, boom. There's a thing they talk about Charlie Manson's life from childhood to they croaked. Yes. Oh God, did you hear it?
Yeah, I know. I've seen people put tweets out about it.
Oh God Almighty, dude, bro, seriously, seriously.
Wid and I were listening to a podcast about Doris Day. For some reason, and this sounds, people out there listening, she was somebody famous 50 years ago. But her son was there was that guy, Terry Pritchard. And it was his house that they were renting to, what's his name?
Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski.
Yeah. And some people think that the Manson murders happened there because they thought they were going to be killing and attacking Doris Day's son because he shot down Charles Manson for a recording contract. And but Whit and I were listening. It was really fascinating going down this rabbit hole. Like Whit loves this old actress, but here her son was involved with Charles Manson. Like, oh my God!
It's like they have the Wonderland murders on Wondery, and the funny thing about it was There was that porno guy from back in the day, Johnny
John
Holmes.
Holmes. Yeah.
He's involved in there in somewhere. I'm sitting there going, what in the blue hell? How did John Holmes?
Oh,
And so it's like, but the thing is, and they have this thing called Business Wars. Wondery just does not F up. They have not put out one piece of crap yet.
Oh, you're right. And who would have thought that you're listening to a podcast on your phone or your laptop and you're there for hours? It's fascinating.
The funny thing, which is, what's really weird, is when you find out people are listening to your ass. You know what I mean? And they emailing you like, huh? Oh, apparently people are listening to me.
Oh my God! Right. I have 2 friends in Philly who started a podcast, and it's aimed at like guys who are like 35 to 50-year-old fathers, and guys who are still act young, but they have to be responsible dads. But they're really catching on, and they're on that Patreon.
I think that's when you were in the dude's house.
Yeah.
The dude with the puppet. Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten it's growing. Is the word exponentially? Like, they're making a nice chunk of change from a podcast with subscribers, and it's really coming along. Like it'd be so cool to quit, quit your day job, just do comedy, and like that. This goes back to comedy though. You look at upcoming shows at a major comedy club, and you go, you'll know like one comedian. But then it'll have here's Steve and Joe from the so-and-so podcast, and it's sold out because their listeners are coming out to hear them. They're not really comedians, but it's a funny show.
What's weird though, which is the weirdest thing about podcasting? When people like you on a podcast, they really like you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, because if you think about it, you're in their ear for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because it's like you're overhearing. It's like remember we used to all hang out at like a Hosai Guy or
yes,
the South Street Diner. Well, when a couple of people are telling a story and you're the friend that's with them, and it's not your turn to talk, you're just listening to what they're saying. That's what podcasts sound like to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're with your friends and it's their turn to talk and you're just listening. That's what a podcast is. Because you did, like you said, you did terrestrial radio. I mean, and you've also done the podcast. When you compare the two, because obviously we're talking about the whole vibe with being interrupted with music.
Yes.
But did the actual performance of the show feel different to you when you compare the two?
Oh yes. You can see when you do radio, you got to be on and hit certain words, like hits, but on a podcast, I guess you can take your time to get to a story and flavor it and describe things and make, and it's almost like a pinball machine too, because some you might bring something up that goes down a side tangent about a topic. I like the podcast better because you can just tell a story, and it's really great for somebody like you can riff and tag it and make jokes about it. Because I've done a podcast with some guy in Middle Jersey who's not a comedian, but he loves comics, and he'll talk to you and he'll try and top you. And I'm like, I'm not competing with you. Let's go and tell a funny story. Don't have to. It's not a competition, you jackass.
I used to get a kick out of that. You do somebody's radio show, and you're just having a great time, and you'll tell a funny story, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, how about that time?"
And they won't give you because they want to be a star. I had a couple of headliners taking on the road with them, and we had to do morning radio around the country, and there's always that's what you should say about Johnny Carson. He always made the guests shine, let them tell their story, and roll. You just knew how to, like you said back to the beginning of the thing about a magician can force a card. Like he lets you, grow. Like he's not this, but man, there are some morning zoo guys who are like, they gotta win.
You mean
like, all right, calm down.
You mean most of them?
Yes, exactly.
That was very diplomatic of you, but you're with a friend here. We can tell the truth. And
Really?
I just get I just got a kick out of, you know what, John, I understand that you
Oh, oh, yeah. That always makes you laugh too when you see that they didn't do your homework, and you hear like Johnny Carson. Someone once told me that you had a funny experience on a water slide. It's like, not that I'm putting it down because it's a little bit of a, but that show, Byron Allen's Comics Unleashed, that's on constantly. But Byron Allen interviews like 5 comics. All they are is just setups for their bits.
It's you can tell. I mean, even I think audience members can tell at this point. But comics, you can smell the joke coming because because their comic cadence. If you're a storyteller, your joke cadence and your speaking cadence is virtually the same. If you do those stupid jokes and stuff like that, your comedic cadence is so different from your speaking voice. Yeah, man, I tell you, man, my wife's really really supportive of me at my job, and I think it's great. But my daughter, I tell you.
Exactly.
And you sit there going, dude, you know, the audience, you can see the audience kind of the energy of the audience is kind of leaning in, like, yeah, this guy's getting real. Let's listen to him. Oh man, I tell you, it's really, you know, I grew up and I went to college. It was great. It was a great experience. But my car the other day, I tell you, my car. You just want to slap the bastard.
Yeah. Oh man, that's exactly it.
Okay. Oh, that was good. Now, John, we have come to the end of this wonderful program. Now, granted, this episode will be coming out in a few weeks. So so on the normal, I mean, if this was like a quick turnaround, I would say plug this and plug that. But I'm probably, know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put your website in the notes.
Okay, cool. Yes.
You know, that way, because I didn't realize I was going to be getting this many interviews back to back, like, because I thought everybody was going to go, hell no. But only 2 people said no, and then right. So I was like, oh Jesus Christ! So I had to pull out the I was expecting to do an interview every once in a while, but they were like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, all right. So
I just had somebody redo my website. I think it's JohnKensilComedy.com, because my other website was like John Kensil, whatever. I never updated it. It said you can find John on MySpace.
Oy vey. And he does wonderful jokes about Nixon.
Yeah, exactly. But check out my website.
Yeah, and just as far as the audience is concerned, for those of you listening, obviously, if you're in the UK or Australia, you're not going to be able to help John at all. But for those of you that are in the 48 states, also some of you, he'll actually come to you. But if you're in my original home area, if you're in the Northeast, just look for John Kensil. He is S. Anthony Thomas Show approved. So go and check him out, damn it. And John, thank you, man. I appreciate it. First of all, it was good talking to you again. You know, I like to catch up with my old friends, and after, once I'm sure that nobody's going to make me completely ill, even though I'm completely vaccinated, once I know everything's cool, then I'll be out there performing again. So we'll run into each other, obviously. But man, it was great talking to you, brother. I appreciate you for coming on and giving me your time, man. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much, too. It was great talking to you. That was fun. This is a fun back and forth and stories and opinions and life stories. This is great, Steve. Thank you very much.
And I just want to let you know, the unfortunate thing is you're going to have to do this again. So so I just want to warn you right now, you will be back. And I'm not asking you, you bastard. I'm telling you, you're going to come back on this show. We're going to have a all right. All right, my brother. Thank you, my friend.
You, man. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you.
Hey, take care, my brother. Bye-bye. All right. Now, that was fun, wasn't it? Told you. What did I tell you? Have I failed you yet? No. Will I fail you? Also, no. Thanks again for all your support. Much love to everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.